Hey out there, everyone. This is Bradford, your carnivore curmudgeon, back after a brief respite here on the YouTube. Thought I would put together a little video and bring you along with us on a camping trip we took last weekend to Stone Mountain State Park in North Carolina. Not to be confused with the famous Stone Mountain in Georgia. But Stone Mountain State Park is a very nice park. We enjoyed ourselves quite a bit, even though we had a very rainy weekend. I'll tell you more about that as we go. Probably the best thing about the state park is the views. It is just a beautiful area, whether you're in your car or on a hike. Stone Mountain State Park is about 2 hours, just a little bit more from where we live, and it is northwest of Winston-Salem. It was a pretty easy drive, although there are some definitely country roads that bring you to the park itself. But you wouldn't want to have it any other way if you really wanted to go to a nice RV camping ground in North Carolina. Here's an interesting thing. There's lots of signs as you go in, like this one that says alcohol is prohibited. Beyond this point, there's signs that say feeding the wild animals is prohibited. There's tons of signs telling you to get out of the park at 9 o'clock. But I'm going to come back to that alcohol sign in just a moment. Here's the entrance to the state park where you have to check in, and they're very helpful, very nice people overall. And there is a station there where, as I said, you check in, and you can also purchase certain things and gather information. But one of the things I wanted to point out is this sign right here to the right. Campers must keep alcohol on their reserved sites. But I thought it was prohibited. Well, whatever. Probably they know everybody brings it anyway. Not that I'm saying we did. Anyway, they gave us a little map, told us to go down to the second left and take a left into our loop B. And one of the first things we noticed was that it was not as woodsy as far as being trees all around as some of the other parks we've been in, but that doesn't really take away from the campground, in my opinion. There were still plenty of trees. The campsites themselves were very spacious. They were overall very well maintained, and obviously we got there after. It was several days after they had mowed, but it was also raining a lot the entire weekend. It started raining about 8 o'clock on Friday night when we arrived, and it did not really quit until Sunday morning, and then it rained again a little Sunday afternoon. Our camp space was number 68, which is just a point of reference in case you find yourself looking into it, and we liked our spot quite a bit. Circling around, we noticed there were a wide variety of different kinds of campers, from the truck campers to travel trailers like ours, many different sizes, from the huge Class A down to little tiny things that I can't even figure out how people stay in. But it was a good experience, and it was quiet while we were there. Of course, I'm sure all the rain helped that, but it was a quiet weekend. So here's our setup, and about the time we got set up that evening, Friday evening, about all we had time to do was to make some pork chops on the Coleman stove. Couldn't use the griddle because it started to rain on us. So we had pork chops and eggs for a nice dinner before we turned in for the evening. One thing we really enjoyed was there was this very nice creek right out back of our RV space, and just that sound of that babbling brook, if you will, was very nice all weekend. Now Saturday morning it continued to rain, so I'm back on the Coleman stove. I stirred up some leftover steak cubes and some bacon, for breakfast, and we had a very nice, just typical campfire carnivore breakfast. And every camping trip, I always have to try the fancy chef's flip of the eggs. And I got to say, I outdid myself on this one. I got the flip, but only one egg turned. So I could either go for the spatula or give it a try one more time. And I succeeded. I got a kind of a twofer. Got to admit, I'm a little proud of myself for that one. So, what do you do with a full belly on a rainy day? Well, you look out the window and hope for something to bark at, or you just go exploring in between the raindrops. So, that's what I did. I took a picture of a few things I thought I'd show you. Being up in the North Carolina mountains, they were very serious about being aware of bears and had lots of instructions on how to protect yourself from getting invaded by hungry bears. Here's a picture of the men's restroom, which was overall pretty clean, but it wasn't the best. They're definitely dated, but they weren't trashed. I did not actually try the shower, but Mrs. Curmudgeon did, and she said it was like taking a shower of needles because of the water pressure. And it's the push button kind, so you have to keep pressing the button to get water to flow. But she did say the water was warm. Probably the oddest and most frustrating thing about the whole campsite was this thing. I've never seen a spigot like this before. The handle is up on, is down on. I moved it back and forth and nothing happened. I did it several times. I looked at other campsites. Some of them were up, some of them were down, so I couldn't tell if what was on and what was off. All I know is this thing shot water all over my pants, and then somehow or another, at one point, we finally got the water to work. But before that happened, I actually went to the lady where I checked in at the campgrounds and told her what was going on, and she said to me, and I quote, "Well, I'll send somebody down there if I can find someone." She apparently didn't find anyone, and no one ever did come to help us. But thankfully the water did start working. But I don't know what this thing was, but it sucked. I mean, it wasn't exactly a hardship, but I just had to say this thing was so terrible. It must have been manufactured in Mixukistan or something. Just the worst. Anyway. That evening, because it was still raining, we decided to use our new favorite method for smash burgers, which I find so much easier than smashing with a spatula on a grill. I just stick them in a plastic bag, flatten them out, and smash them as thin as I want them, and then take that burger out of the bag and put it onto the good old frying pan. So we had smash burgers for dinner that night. Then Sunday morning, we got a little bit of a break in the rain, so I got to use the griddle. Made some of this delicious breakfast sausage that we just don't usually make this at home. This is usually kind of something we always take with us camping. But Mrs. Curmudgeon loves her some breakfast sausage, and I got to kind of be in the mood for it, but I like it too. And the brand that we like, if it's available in your area, is this Bass Farm Country Pork Sausage, and we like the hot brand. Then it was time for a hike. After some sausage and eggs, we decided to head for the trail that took us to the Upper Falls, and it did not disappoint. It was a very beautiful area. It was certainly loud, especially with the cicadas all happening right now. But we took ourselves what I would call a strenuous hike. And I'll tell you more about why it was so strenuous in a moment. But the Upper Falls were actually quite close by. And you could hike to the bottom of the falls, which is about 400 feet if I understand it. But they have these stairs built because, it's a stone mountain. So the switchback trails, I assume, would not be very easy to do. But that meant you had to go down stair after stair after stair after stair. And the payoff, of course, was at the bottom of the stairs was the bottom of the falls, which looking back up was just gorgeous. And it sounded beautiful, it smelled beautiful, It was worth every step to get there. We spent a little time there, and the dog frolicked in the water, and we took some pictures and enjoyed very much the hike that we took. We didn't go to see the other two falls, but perhaps we'll do that in the next trip. Problem was is that we had to go back up, and that was strenuous. It was very strenuous, and having some trouble with a sciatic nerve pain in my leg, and hiking with what I found out 2 days later was a case of pneumonia. It was a challenging hike for me, I have to admit, and I was flat wore out by the time we got back to the top. There were many rests on the way back up to the top of the falls. Mrs. Curmudgeon had leftover smash burgers for dinner. I had the summer sausage and cheese and some olives. And for all of the carnivore police, I promised they were made out of meat. They were made out of an olivent. Get it? Yeah, never mind. On the way home, it was eventful too. We blew a tire, and on the expressway was able to sort of limp off to an area where we could get it changed. And before I could even lay a hand on it, a young man stopped with a jack in his truck, replaced the tire for me, would not let me help, would not take any pay for it. And I wish I knew who he was so I could thank him properly, but he was back to work and out of there when it was done. So overall, a beautiful trip. We enjoyed ourselves a lot, and we would definitely go again to Stone Mountain State Park in beautiful North Carolina. Well, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time. And until then, get outside if you can and eat some meat.